Grand Prix New Jersey a little bit earlier in the year, and of course, top 8 last weekend at SCG Baltimore with Just Guy Control. Losing in the quarterfinals to Ross Merriam, who won that tournament. Ross not having a great weekend here. Brad is off to a 4-1 start against Mason Purcell, Bulgari Midrange Mirror. One of these players had Llanowar Elves to start, and that gives Brad a pretty sizable advantage, especially on the draw.
Yeah, Llanowar Elves very good on the first few turns of the game. However, the games usually go pretty long, and the acceleration not nearly as important in this matchup as just having the extra raw mana.
It'll be the old Branch Walker. Going to place the Llanowar Elves into the graveyard. Ooh, Brad. little smile there, keeping a one-lander, huh?
Yeah, but he was on the draw with an elf and a Branch Walker, so I don't think it's a bad keep. It's a little unfortunate that he missed, but the game is not over by any means. These games, even if you miss land drops a little bit, they tend to go pretty long.
Branch Walker going to come in here for Brad, it looks like.
Branch you.
And Mason says, I will exchange Branch Walkers with you. Brad will play.
Nice, dude.
The find half of Fine Finality.
Discard.
Yep. And he will discard. It looks like he's going to discard a copy of Midnight Reaper. Let's see if Mason can take advantage now. And he's got a pretty decent mana advantage as he'll play land number 4.
Ravenous Chupacabra, that is.
That's close enough.
That's also very bad.
Close enough. Now he's going to play Vraska and not minus. Interesting. Let's take a look at Vraska then. That's a little bit surprising to me.
If you could see my face right now.
Huh. So electing to plus it to 6, you may sacrifice another permanent. If you do, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So it's on 6. He could have just used the -3, brought it down to 1 to kill Llanowar Elves. So obviously Mason has a plan here, to me, of getting to the emblem. You get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. I am shocked he didn't try to kill that Llanowar Elves.
I'm a little shocked as well. My mouth was just literally open for like a good 30 seconds. It's like if my opponent has 1 land and a Llanowar Elf and they've missed 2 land drops, and I have a thing that says kill the elf, I kill it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, here's what I'll say. Mason's plan, he's not shifting his plan, right? He just plussed again, so he's obviously trying to get to the ultimate. Jadelight Ranger is going to reveal 2 lands, so it's just a 2-1 on the battlefield, going to play a forest. Brad without black mana at this stage. So Mason's saying, I want to go to the top rope here with Vraska, maybe use this as a card advantage engine, so on and so forth, and that's his plan in this game.
Yeah, but if Brad just draws a black source next turn, he can give Vraska the big boot with something like Assassin's Trophy, which I believe he has in hand.
Follow-up here's a Jadelight Ranger from Mason. Top card, Memorial to Folly. He'll take that one. Druid of the Cowl, I don't think he needs that one. Jadelight Ranger will get a counter there. Where does Mason want to go next? I have to imagine.
Does he have 5 lands in hand? Or is that Midnight Reaper and 4 lands?
Well, it doesn't look like he's doing all that well.
Maybe that's why he was just going straight, ticking up on the Vraska Bulgari Queen. Because the easiest way for him to win is to just get the ultimate off and plink Brad for 1 damage.
Yeah, he's unwavering in this plan. So, do I know if this is correct? Oh, yeah, he's going to sacrifice, sure, and draw a card and lose some life. Do I know if this plan's correct? I don't. But I will give Mason credit here. Like, he's formulated a game plan that's going to stick with it. He's not shifting from that game plan of, I'm going to get Vraska up. And now, if you're Brad, if you want to get Vraska off the battlefield, if you don't draw a black source, you got to attack that thing.
Yeah, it looks like Brad did draw a Swamp, too. Throwing both Llanowar Elves under the bus to deal 2 damage to the Vraska Bulgari Queen, not exactly ideal, but now drawing the Swamp, he can use the Assassin's Trophy on the Vraska, and still you have 3 mana left over to cast another creature.
So let's see where Brad wants to start things. Keep in mind he does have a Merfolk Branch Walker in hand, so he'll play that. Vivian Reed is the reveal. Be a little surprised if he wants the Planeswalker, but hard not to trust Brad's judgment in whatever he does select.
I mean, if he has the Swamp in hand, which I'm pretty sure he does, he still has a forest left over from the Jadelight Ranger. If he's just going to Assassin's Trophy the Vraska, something like Vivian is pretty good here, actually.
So it looks like he's going to keep Vivian on top. There's the Swamp. And now perhaps it's time for the trophy.
Now he's going to wait for draw step, probably, just to have a slightly more likely to have a land drawn during the draw step.
Okay.
Maybe on upkeep. It doesn't really matter. The land enters the battlefield untapped. It's not like Path to Exile where hitting them at instant speed on their upkeep is more important, you know.
So Purcell's going to dig up a forest, place it on the battlefield untapped because, that's what Assassin's Trophy does. And now, as you can see in Mason's hand, he does have a copy of Vraska's Contempt. So he'll play Memorial to Folly.
I think we have a classic case of Screw versus Flood, and I think that Brad is just drawn out of it, and I think he's going to just come back into this game pretty easily.
Yeah, this is an interesting little game that we've sculpted here because, again, Mason had the opportunity to kill that Land of War Elves and really set back Brad's development. He elected not to. His plan was to go all the way to the top with Vraska, used as a card advantage engine and also a game winner. Didn't get to that point because Brad finally drew that black source of mana to play Assassin's Trophy, and now it makes you question if he used that Vraska correctly or not.
Yeah, I think this game will hinge completely on whether or not Brad is able to get the Midnight Reaper off the battlefield. He can't really afford to trade in combat at all until it's gone. We saw last turn Mason attacked with 2 creatures with 2 toughness. Brad having multiple creatures with 2 power could have very easily traded, but it would have resulted in Mason drawing 2 cards.
Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. You have no choice. You must do this with Midnight Reaper.
Quote-unquote drawback, also it makes it dummy-proof.
Yes. Midnight Reaper here for Brad. It's a forest now as well. And if you're Brad, you gotta be feeling at least decent about how things are going right now. All right, and Brad actually might be feeling so confident that he wants to get into the old red zone here with old Branchy. Old Branchy boy.
I feel like Brad is going to make a block next turn that's going to get blown out by a Vraska's Contempt. But it's possible he just doesn't have a choice. You know, he doesn't actually have the answer to the opposing Midnight Reaper. So Mason going to go ahead and use this EOT, though, just for mana efficiency-wise. I don't mind this play at all.
Vraska's Contempt will take care of the Midnight Reaper, and now we're going to head back over to Mason Purcell, who has done a little bit of flooding in this game, though he does have a Midnight Reaper where Nelson does not.
Notably, he also has a Memorial to Folly, which he can use at some point to get back something like a Ravenous Chupacabra or the Midnight Reaper if it goes to the graveyard.
Looks like Jade Light Ranger as a 3/2 is going to come into the red zone. Brad will take that damage. He's going to fall down to 10. What's next here? Looks like just a Woodland Cemetery and a passing of the turn. So we'll go back over to Nelson. Purcell not able to take advantage of the fact that Nelson had mana issues at the early stages of the game. Brad's going to tap at least 3. Let's make it 4. Is it time to go towards Karn? It is. Okay.
Never been a huge fan of Karn in a deck like this. I think, it plays a very similar role as a card advantage engine to, other Planeswalkers you could potentially play. But it's both of his minus abilities are a little lackluster. I actually quite like Vraska Golgari Queen as just a means of spot removal early on. The plus ability isn't actually raw card advantage, but you can cash in some lands and such later in the game for actual cards.
Karn goes up. Brad adds an Overgrown Tomb to his hand. Cast Down goes underneath Karn. Overgrown Tomb entered the battlefield untapped. Nelson fell down to 8, then deployed a Midnight Reaper. And that's his turn. So we head back over to Purcell, who's got 8 lands on the battlefield, of which one of them is Memorial to Folly, as Todd did mention. 2/2 Ravenous Chupacabra, 3/2 Midnight Reaper, and a 3/2 Jade Light Ranger are headed into the red zone.
Yeah, Mason's draw for the turn actually was Cast Down here, so this attack at Karn is likely going to be met with a bunch of blocks from Brad, and then a mid-combat Cast Down is going to make it so that Mason gets to draw cards off of his Midnight Reaper and Brad does not.
Brad will line up the blocks. Jade Light Ranger jumping in front of Midnight Reaper. Here is the Cast Down that Todd mentioned would be cast in combat, taking care of the Midnight Reaper. Now, Midnight Reaper does trigger from itself, so Nelson will fall down to 7 and draw a card. And now there will be an exchange here, but it's a favorable one here for Mason. Mason will get to draw a couple of cards and lose a little bit of life. So Golgari deck even has the ability to draw a couple of cards along the way. However, Mason's battlefield is dwindling a bit, so it'd be a good time to reload if he can. And again, we can't forget about the Memorial to Folly that is on the battlefield to be able to get back Midnight Reaper or Ravenous Chupacabra, were it to die. And now Mason also has a copy of Merfolk Branchwalker in hand. So you said these games will go late.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not fast ones, and that's looking to be the case right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mason's on the brunt side here of the variant spectrum. Brad, early on, missed a land drop or two, and was able to draw out of it, whereas Mason is continuing to flood, even though his start was significantly better. He drew 2 extra cards that turn off of his creatures dying via Midnight Reaper, and one was a land and one was a Branchwalker. He still got 4 lands in hand.
Yeah. We're going to head back over to Nelson.
It's just a slugfest. You know, this game could go for 20 more turns. Brad has a Vivian Reed in hand, and he's probably going to play. Mason has a Vivian Reed on top, he's probably going to play. And neither player can really threaten lethal on the opposing Planeswalkers.
Yeah, well, maybe then it just comes down to card advantage and card density. And right now, if you're Nelson, you got an active Karn. You found Carnage Tyrant. That'll go under Karn for right now, picking up a land as Nelson. So mana doesn't appear to be a problem moving forward here for Brad. He doesn't have as much as Nelson. He doesn't have he doesn't have as much as Purcell, and he doesn't have a card advantage land in Memorial to Folly on the battlefield just yet. But still think that Nelson's doing okay for himself as he continues to play catch up in this game.
Yeah, we're not as sophisticated as Magic Fest. We don't have the advantage bar.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
At this point, I think Brad would have a pretty significant sized advantage bar.
Well, you really think so?
Yeah, okay. So Purcell has 4 lands in hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
The creatures on the battlefield represent 5 damage, but that's not that close to lethal as long as Brad puts up like 1 or 2 blockers, you know. As the game progresses, Brad has an active Planeswalker. He's going to be the first to play a Vivian Reed here and have a second active Planeswalker. And he has a Carnage Tyrant, which he can get off of minusing the Karn next turn, assuming it survives, and I cannot imagine that it would not.
Carnage Tyrant, Merfolk Branchwalker among the cards that Nelson is looking at here. Again, we mentioned how the first Carnage Tyrant went underneath Karn. So Purcell may be able to get that back. However, Brad elects not to take the Carnage Tyrant that he could from Vivian Reed, going with J-Light Ranger, looking to build even more of an advantage here.
Yeah, I think this is a nod to potentially buffering his life total with Wild Growth Walker, which he shows us here.
Yes, he does. Memorial to Folly is going to be activated. It's going to return Midnight Reaper. So now Mason Purcell will untap. Quite a few lands on the battlefield here for your player on the left playing Golgari mid-range. He's drawn that copy of Vivian Reed we knew was there. Has the ability to play both Vivian Reed and Midnight Reaper in the same turn. I'm going to start with Vivian Reed.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a way to check either of these Planeswalkers or threaten lethal. And that's not a spot you want to be in a Golgari mirror where your opponent has Planeswalker advantage as well as Carnage Tyrant advantage.
Vivian Reed will reveal Merfolk Branchwalker. That'll be added to Mason's hand. And we see where we go from here. It looks like it might be the Midnight Reaper. Okay.
Even if you attack either of these Planeswalkers for 3, you're not going to do a whole lot. Brad very easily going to soak 4 damage to the face because he's just going to play a Jade-Light Ranger next turn. Yeah. If he has a land, he could also go Jade-Light into Carnage Tyrant off of minusing the card.
Nelson going to fall down to 4, but knows that he'll have the opportunity to gain some life here because of the Wild Growth Walker. A card that has really established itself as main deckable and in multiple numbers.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the Golgari deck's easiest ways to combat all these really aggressive decks, like the mono-red Experimental Frenzy decks, the white splashing red versions of the white weenie decks that play things like History of Benalia. It's just a very strong card. It's very good against the red decks. If you get one counter on it, it becomes very difficult for them to kill it with something like Wizard's Lightning or Lightning Strike. It's just great.
For Brad, now he's going to play at Woodland Cemetery. And let's see what the follow-up is going to be here. He's thinking long and hard before playing Jade-Light Ranger. Explore reveals a forest. Explore reveals an overgrown tomb. Nelson is going to gain a little bit of life here.
At this point, I think Brad knows that he is definitely in the driver's seat, and so he's just trying to take away every single inch that he could give Mason to potentially come back in this game. And if he makes a mistake that could turn things around, you know, there's just no reason not to just take an extra 2 seconds and think about exactly what you want to do.
Looks like Nelson going to play Vraska's Contempt now. Goodbye, Vivian Reed. Brad again a little bit more life. So the things that were an issue for Brad in the early stages of the game. Mana, no longer an issue. Life total at 12, no longer an issue.
Yep. The amount of damage that Mason can put out here is not very high. It looks like he has Branch Walker and 4 lands in hand still. I've said that multiple times this game.
Vivian Reed now is the reveal to the Branch Walker. He's going to leave that on top, which I'm slightly surprised about just because I'm not sure that Vivian Reed is the card that's going to get him back into this game.
He has enough mana. It's basically a free roll to help find anything that he might actually need to get back in.
Okay.
Like, I think the only way he wins this game is by finding Carnage Tyrant, casting it, playing Finality, and then attacking Vivian Reed for a bunch. But Vivian looks like she's going to ultimate pretty quick here. And at that point, I don't think Mason has a shot.
Nelson going to take a look at top 4 cards, from Vivian Reed. He'll be selecting one here momentarily. We'll take a look at that Planeswalker again because the ultimate does actually work itself into the equation in this matchup a decent amount. You -8, and you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible.
It's weird. Isn't there 8 loyalty on the Vivian Reed already?
There is 8 loyalty.
And the top card of Mason's deck is a Vivian Reed?
It is a Vivian Reed.
And not a Vraska's Contempt?
Yes. It's bad news for
that is
bad news for Mason.
You're right.
Ravenous Chupacabra is the find here for Brad Nelson. He could go chewing on something here if he'd like, as he's taking a look at activating Karn now. Not sure if he wants to minus to get a cast down, or plus to reveal something else. Well, looks like he will minus and select the cast down.
Just want to point out, this is the same game where Brad missed his land drop on turn 2, his land drop on turn 3, and he might have missed his land drop on turn 4, I don't recall.
Well, he's doing just fine now as he's going to deploy Druid of the Cowl and Carnage Tyrant. And pass the turn back with a lot of confidence, knowing that Vivian Reed will ultimate on the following turn. Mason Purcell will play the Vivian Reed he left on top of the deck, plus it and take a look at a couple of cards here. The problem here is that I don't believe he has a way to interact here with the Vivian Reed that's on the battlefield here for Brad, unless Brad allows him to. You see all the lands in hand there for Mason. Chupacabra is the reveal, and sure, the Chupacabra can kill a creature, but is that enough?
Well, Mason can send all of his creatures at Vivian Reed and force Brad to block basically all 4 of them. And that would result in Mason drawing, up to potentially 4 cards, which could potentially find him a Vraska's Contempt to get the Vivian off the battlefield. The problem is you would be sacrificing basically your entire side of the battlefield to do so, which would leave you pretty dead in the next few turns.
Chupacabra is going to take care of the Wild Growth Walker, but that already did its job. Gained Brad 6 life, and now Mason can only pass the turn back. And if you're passing the turn back here, Brad's got to be just oozing with confidence because he knows that Vivian Reed can go ultimate and that his creatures are going to be along for a long time.
Yeah, Brad here figuring out if he wants to use cast down an EOT. If Mason had an extra mana untapped, I don't think Brad would do this because there is a chance that Mason's able to draw an Assassin Trophy off of that draw and cast it to kill the Vivian before the ultimate.
Sure, that makes sense. Brad going to very quickly draw, activate Vivian Reed, and Mason Purcell will concede the game. So Brad Nelson, who had some mana issues at the early stages of the game, you see him shaking it off a little bit. They're able to win game number 1 in the Golgari mid-range mirror. He's up a game here over Mason Purcell. And we're going to start with Purcell's sideboard. He's got 4 copies of Duress, just like Nelson does. 2 Deathgorge Scavenger, 2 Golden Demise, 2 copies of the Eldest Reborn. And here come the one-ofs, 5 of them. An Assassin's Trophy, the Immortal Sun, Vraska's Contempt, Cast Down, and a Thrashing Brontodon. Todd, what do you like and why?
I like all the cards that can interact with Planeswalkers outside of Duress. I'm not a huge fan of the card Duress in these grindy, heavy creature-based mirror matches. While cards like Vivian Reed and Find Finality are arguably the most important spells in the mirror, having a Duress drawn at a point where neither player has cards in hand is usually pretty bad. So I like staying away from discard effects. Something like Deathcore Scavenger could be okay at just keeping the find half of Find Finality in check. I like the Eldritch Reborn as just a means of grindy card advantage. It's effectively a 3-for-1 if your opponent doesn't deal with it, and that's pretty solid when the games go long. I don't love the cast down, but with Midnight Reaper playing such a huge role in these mirror matches, it's possible that any type of spot removal is worthwhile because it deals with Midnight Reaper. The Immortal Sun, even though it's counterintuitive with Planeswalkers of your own, if you're the one with the Immortal Sun in the mirror match, you're hugely advantaged.
Yes.
So I would definitely bring that in. I think that this is mainly the matchup where it comes in. I like the Vraska's Contempt. Again, just you want to check the Vivian Reeds and the other Planeswalkers. And if you expect your opponent has the Immortal Sun as well, bring in the Thrashing Brawn on. But I would leave it on the sideline for Game 2 specifically and hope that your opponent just doesn't cast.
Well, we take a look at Nelson's sideboard. He's got 4 Duresses as well, as I mentioned. He's got 2 Assassin's Trophy on the board as opposed to Mason's 1. 2 cast downs. We already saw one in the first game. 2 Golden Demise as well. Deathcourt Scavenger, sure. Another copy of Midnight Reaper, yes. Plate Crafter and the Eldritch Reborn to take care of Niv Mizzet. And then Vraska Relic Seeker, a top-end threat. That's actually pretty good in the mirror if memory serves.
Oh, yeah. Vraska Relic Seeker was in the first iteration as a 3-of. Big finisher. People eventually discover that even though Carnage Tyrant doesn't feel like it ends the game when you cast it, it pairs so well with Find Finality to end the game that it became the de facto finisher for the deck. But after sideboard, the games go long. You can afford to have another big top-end spell. We see Mason having the Immortal Sun, whereas Brad has Vraska Relic Seeker. So I like that. Eldritch Reborn again coming in. Not a huge fan of Playcrafter because each player has so many expendable creatures. The ability is not that relevant. The Midnight Reaper definitely comes in just to help win those Midnight Reaper battles. And then I'm still torn on the cast downs. I'm not sure just how good they are on the mirror. I think I'm just going to have to default to Brad on that one and see how he sideboards. But then Assassin's Trophy, again, just anything that interacts with Planeswalkers is good. I love the fact that Brad is going up to 3 total Assassin's Trophies after sideboard, giving himself 3 outs to the Immortal Sun, whereas normally it'd be a straight KO in the mirror.
Well, these players are just about ready here for game night. We want to talk about SCG Game Night real quick, though. It's the very popular promotion where every week in December you can get your hands on Bramble Hopper Elite pins and tokens. But this is your last chance to get pins because as we move into January, you're going to find here that Purdukin, well, that's going to be tokens and sleeves.
Purdukin!
And we can say the same thing here for Ready, Yeti, Steady, Go. Go to StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. Stores, if you'd like to sign up, all you have to do is contact your StarCityGames.com in-store play representative. Bring game night to you for some fun and friendly magic in your store.
Is the Yeti going sledding? Is that what's happening in that picture?
I have a feeling,
I think so.
Yes.
That's great.
Lando Royals here from Nelson to kick things off on the draw once again, so he's going to steal the mana initiative, or at least try, as Mason Purcell kicked things off with a Memorial to Folly, a Forest, and just a passing of the turn. For Nelson, he picked up a copy of Find Finality. Looks like he might be going to the old Branch Walker again.
It's kind of interesting here for Mason. He had the option to play a Memorial to Folly on turn 2, but that would leave him without access to potentially having double green next turn if he should draw a Jade Light Ranger.
For Nelson, another copy of Llanowar Elves before ending the turn, so Brad has a serious mana advantage. Purcell will play that Midnight Reaper and pass the turn back over to Nelson. Nelson's going to draw a card here.
Yeah, the Midnight Reaper just represents so much work to get through. If you don't just have a spot removal spell for it, it completely gums up combat. Either it basically says all your creatures can't be blocked, or your opponent can't really attack into it. And both those modes are pretty sweet.
Well, it's going to be a turn 3 Vivian Reed here for Nelson, revealing Carnage Tyrant. And this game might end before it even begins. You can see just how important the mana acceleration is here. Some players during the Pro Tour elected to play Llanowar Elves, others did not. Some just went straight to Druid or the Cow, which is a little bit slower than Llanowar Elves, and you can see just why Llanowar Elves is one of the best Magic cards of all time. Look at the start it's enabled here for Nelson.
Yeah, and I think Mason here has access to Assassin's Trophy to take care of this Vivian Reed, but the revealed Carnage Tyrant from Brad's side, as well as the potential for a Find Finality on the follow-up turn, not really looking good for Mason.
And it's really tough in this spot, too, because if you're Mason, I think you actually have to Assassin's Trophy that thing. If you don't, we saw what would happen last game.
Yeah,
it's a card of control. It's a card advantage engine that also is also a game-winning threat. So you know, you have to kill it, but then you ramp your opponent up to Carnage Tyrant that's coming down on turn 4.
Yup.
Here's an attack.
It's coming down on turn 4 without even having to play a land.
Yeah, which is kind of nuts. Midnight Reaper, Merfolk Branchwalker, they're going to trade. Mason will lose a life and draw a card. Brad's going to play Carnage Tyrant, and he says, yeah, try to beat this freaking thing.
Now, a lot of people, when I was first starting to brew in the format, kept trying to tell me that cards like the Eldest Reborn were good answers to Carnage Tyrant. And here is my response to you. There are 2 other creatures on the battlefield this turn.
Yes,
the Eldest Reborn looks embarrassing.
It doesn't look great. The Eldest Reborn is going to come down. It's going to make Brad sacrifice a creature. Chapter 1 has been read. Each player sacrifices a creature or permanent. And, of course, there will be spots, Todd, where the Eldest Reborn looks really good.
Oh, I agree.
But this ain't one of them.
This ain't one.
Oh, boy.
Tick down?
Yep.
Nice. I love it.
Brad wants to get rid of that, so goodbye the Eldest Reborn. And now we're going to go over to Mason, who, by the way, has another copy of the Eldest Reborn in hand. And as we mentioned, it is going to look really good in spots. And unfortunately for Mason, again, this ain't one of them.
How much power's on the play? 7? 8? Mason's at 8? Do the math. Dead. If he plays Eldest Reborn here, I'm pretty sure Brad's just going to sacrifice Vivian Reed, and then the game ends.
Well, he should sacrifice Vivian Reed. Like, this will be a small thing I'm interested in because I was thinking if he plays the Eldest Reborn, he'll sacrifice Llanowar Elves and knock him down to 1 and keep Carnage Tyrant and Vivian Reed. Now we're going to see him go to Vraska. Vraska will take care of Llanowar Elf.
Got him.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Yep.
So instead, Vivian Reed's going to go up. So, I mean, this is just the rock and the hard place here if you're Mason, because Brad gets to keep his Carnage Tyrant and activate Vivian Reed, which means the longer this game goes, the worse it's going to get for you, Mason. I guess, fortunately for you, this game's probably only going to be about 2 more turns because Brad's got him covered in a lot of different ways right now.
Yep. I think there's a small chance Brad actually just decides, okay, I can't lose this game unless there's a potential for me to lose the game if he gets to untap with a Vraska Golgari Queen. And since I'm not dealing lethal with the 7-point attack, there's a good chance I should just send the Carnage Tyrant at the Vraska. It's representing a lot of damage, but I think that it's worthwhile.
One thing I like that Brad is doing here, though, is playing these spells pre-combat to get as much information as he can.
To the face!
Well, Brad's just going to load up a beautiful battlefield, right?
No, that's fine. Doesn't matter.
Going to play Carnage Tyrant, Midnight Reaper, Jade Light Ranger. Says try to beat these. Mason cannot, and he will concede the game. Brad Nelson going to win this game and match here over Mason Purcell. 2-0.